You think you know Jon Moxley? You think AEW is his forever home? Think again. Because what just leaked from backstage sources is about to explode the entire wrestling industry. Moxley isn't just watching WWE from the sidelines anymore. He's actively trying to bring the Vision faction to WWE, and this changes everything we thought we knew about wrestling's biggest war. Before you click away, you need to hear this because what I'm about to reveal will make your blood boil and your mind race. Hit that like button right now if you want WWE to make this happen, and smash subscribe because you won't find this information anywhere else. Listen closely, because the wrestling world is about to get turned completely upside down. Multiple sources close to the situation are reporting that Jon Moxley, the man who burned every bridge when he left WWE, the guy who trashed Vince McMahon and the entire WWE system, is now begging to come back. But here's where it gets absolutely insane: he doesn't want to come back alone. He wants to bring the Vision faction with him, and he wants creative control over the entire storyline. Let that sink in for a second. The same Jon Moxley who said he'd never return to WWE, who called it a prison, who mocked their creative process for years, is now crawling back asking for favors. And the timing? Right after Wargames delivered one of the greatest premium live events in WWE history. Coincidence? I don't think so. Here's what we know from insiders who have direct knowledge of these conversations. Moxley reached out through intermediary contacts to gauge WWE's interest in bringing over not just himself, but key members of what he's calling the Vision, a faction that would supposedly revolutionize WWE's main event scene. The pitch? A complete takeover storyline that would make the Bloodline saga look like child's play. We're talking about a faction that would target every championship, every division, and every top star in WWE. Now before you lose your mind in the comments, let me break down exactly what Moxley is reportedly asking for, and trust me, it gets more ridiculous with every detail. First, he wants a guaranteed main event spot at WrestleMania within his first year back. WrestleMania. The guy who abandoned WWE is now demanding their biggest stage. Second, he wants creative control over all Vision faction storylines, meaning Vince McMahon, Triple H, and the entire creative team would have to defer to his vision. The audacity is absolutely off the charts. But wait, it gets better or worse, depending on how you look at it. Moxley allegedly wants to bring over several current AEW talents to form this faction, which would require WWE to not only welcome him back with open arms but also pay massive contracts to multiple wrestlers who've spent years talking trash about the company. We're potentially talking about millions of dollars to people who've made careers out of being anti-WWE. Can you believe this? The real question everyone's asking is, why now? Why is Moxley suddenly interested in returning to the place he couldn't wait to escape? Well, let's look at the facts. AEW's ratings have been struggling. Their pay-per-view rates aren't what they used to be. Tony Khan is making questionable booking decisions left and right. Meanwhile, WWE just delivered Wargames. Their Netflix deal is about to revolutionize the industry, and they're hitting record profits. Moxley isn't stupid, he can read the writing on the wall. Here's where the WWE locker room stands on this, and this is crucial information that's going to shock you. Several top WWE superstars are furious about these reports. They've been grinding for years, building WWE back to its peak, surviving the pandemic era, and now Moxley wants to waltz back in and take a main event spot? Sources say that multiple wrestlers have already made it clear to management that if Moxley gets special treatment, there's going to be serious backstage problems. We're talking about potential walkouts, contract disputes, and a locker room divided like never before. Roman Reigns, who just carried WWE through its most successful period in decades, is reportedly not happy about the idea of Moxley returning and immediately getting pushed to his level. Can you blame him? Roman stayed loyal, did the work, became the tribal chief, and now his former Shield brother who abandoned ship wants to come back and share the spotlight? The tension this would create is explosive. Seth Rollins is another story entirely. He's been vocal about his disappointment in Moxley's departure and has said multiple times that he doesn't respect the way Moxley handled things. Imagine the promos, imagine the confrontations if Moxley actually comes back. But here's the thing, would it be real heat or worked heat? Because if there's genuine animosity, WWE would be playing with fire putting these guys in the same ring. Now let's talk about what the Vision faction would actually look like in WWE, because the rumored lineup is mind-blowing. According to sources, Moxley wants to bring in a mix of current AEW talents and potentially some indie wrestlers who've never worked for WWE before. We're hearing names like Claudio Castagnoli, who of course is former WWE star Cesaro, possibly Wheeler Yuta, and here's the crazy part, Moxley allegedly wants Bryan Danielson involved once he's cleared to return to action. Imagine the Vision faction with Moxley, Danielson, and Castagnoli as its core. That's literally 3 former WWE guys forming a faction to invade WWE. The irony is thick. The creative pitch for the Vision is reportedly based on the idea that WWE has lost its way, that it's become too corporate, too sanitized, too controlled. The faction would position themselves as the real wrestlers who are there to bring legitimacy and intensity back to WWE. Sound familiar? It should, because it's basically the same anti-establishment angle that's been done 1,000 times. But Moxley thinks he can make it work because of his reputation as someone who walked away and kept it real in AEW. Here's my problem with this entire situation, and I want you to sound off in the comments if you agree with me. Moxley made his choice. He left WWE, he burned bridges, he built his reputation on being the guy who escaped the prison and found freedom elsewhere. You can't have it both ways. You can't spend years bashing WWE, building yourself up as the alternative, and then come crawling back when things get tough in AEW. That's not integrity, that's opportunism. And let's be brutally honest about something else. What has Moxley actually accomplished in AEW that would make WWE need him back? Yes, he's been AEW World Champion multiple times. Yes, he's had some great matches. But has he drawn mainstream attention? Has he increased ratings? Has he brought in casual fans? The answer to all of those questions is no. Moxley is a beloved figure among hardcore wrestling fans, but he hasn't proven he can be the guy that moves the needle for a major company. WWE doesn't need Jon Moxley. WWE just proved at Wargames that they have the deepest, most talented roster in the world. They have homegrown stars, they have international sensations, they have legends still performing at the highest level. Why would they complicate their locker room dynamics and spend millions of dollars on someone who might not even be worth the investment? But here's the counter-argument, and this is where it gets interesting. If WWE could bring Moxley back and do it right, the storytelling possibilities are endless. Imagine the confrontation with Roman Reigns, imagine the Shield drama with Seth Rollins, imagine the Vision faction going to war with the Bloodline. From a pure entertainment standpoint, this could be money. The promos alone would break the internet. Social media would explode. Every wrestling podcast would be talking about it for months. Triple H, who's now running creative, is known for his long-term storytelling and his ability to weave complex narratives. If anyone could make a Moxley return work, it's the Game. He proved with Cody Rhodes that you can bring back former stars who left on bad terms and create magic. The question is whether Moxley would be willing to check his ego at the door and trust WWE's creative process, or whether he'd insist on the level of control that would make the whole thing implode. There's also the business side to consider, and this is crucial. WWE is about to launch on Netflix, they're entering a new era of mainstream exposure, and they need content that will capture attention. A Jon Moxley return, especially with a faction invasion angle, would generate massive buzz. It would get mainstream media talking, it would trend on social media, and it would potentially bring over AEW fans who want to follow Moxley's journey. From a pure business perspective, it might actually make sense. But let's talk about what this would mean for AEW, because Tony Khan has to be panicking right now. If Moxley actually leaves and takes other top talents with him, that's a devastating blow to AEW's credibility. How do you position yourself as a legitimate alternative to WWE when your top stars keep leaving for greener pastures? It would validate every criticism that AEW is just a minor league training ground for WWE. Tony Khan would have to do some serious damage control. The wrestling world is watching this situation unfold with intense interest. Every dirt sheet, every podcast, every YouTube channel is speculating about what's going to happen. Will WWE actually entertain Moxley's pitch? Will Triple H and Nick Khan see value in bringing him back? Or will they stand firm and say that WWE has moved on and doesn't need former stars who couldn't appreciate what they had? I want your opinion on this. Drop a comment right now telling me whether WWE should bring back Moxley and the Vision faction, or whether they should tell him to stay in AEW and live with his decision. And make sure you're subscribed because as this story develops, we're going to be all over IT with updates, analysis, and insider information you won't find anywhere else. This is the biggest story in wrestling right now, and it's only going to get more intense in the coming weeks. The Jon Moxley situation could reshape the entire industry, create new alliances, destroy old friendships, and give us some of the most compelling television we've seen in years. Or it could be a complete disaster that exposes the egos and politics that plague professional wrestling. Either way, you need to be here for every single development. Hit that like button, subscribe to WWE Reporter, and turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what happens next in this absolutely insane saga.